All right, perfect, Patrick. So topic of discussion for this blog is going to be generating more profits. Can you go ahead and touch on how a business owner would do something like that?
Well, one of the first things they would do is get the sales team on the same page using the best practices. And what I mean by that is identifying the 7 steps of the sale for their particular product or service, and then using the successes or the best practices that perhaps, sometimes you have salespeople on different pages, and some of them are doing a really good job getting in the door, and some of them are doing a really good job closing the sale. So let's get both of those people together and find out what the best practice on getting in the door and the best practice on closing the sale, and then get everybody doing that same thing. So that's what I mean by getting the sales team on the same page.
Okay.
Okay, so for this topic, the central message, you're talking about these 7 steps. What's the best way that somebody can log that information?
Well, you actually just stated it. I had a client tell me it's called memorializing. A lot of business owners, a lot of sales managers don't take the time to actually write down what those steps are and write down the best practices. So take those 7 steps, determine what those best practices are as a team, collaborative team, and then memorialize it so that you have basically a sales manual to follow. And then the next thing would be to actually track those activities and see what the success, and measure the successes of each of those activities.
Perfect. And now this is a pretty important topic for a business. Can you touch on the 3 main reasons why this is an important topic?
I kind of just did. There I go, talking extemporaneously, right? So if all of if all the salespeople were following the exact steps that are outlined in your sales manual, and they were executing the best they could on each of those steps, those results, the measure and the results that you're measuring on their activities would just skyrocket. We can only imagine that if everyone's following the best practices and delivering at the highest level of execution, your revenues should just skyrocket.
Perfect. So that's the first reason. Now, what about the second reason?
And once you state it, I see here that you say the second reason is.
Yeah. Okay. So you state here that the second reason of why this is important is.
It's at the end.
Yeah. Trying to find it quickly.
It's training your people.
Right. So is training your people. Can you touch on that topic for me?
So the second reason that this is very important for all sales teams is that not everybody performs at the same level. You're going to find weak links, you might say, in your sales team, and this will give you, by having a sales process and system that you can follow the steps, the best practices are defined, and you're measuring the execution that they are performing out in the field, you will find that some people aren't performing as well as others. As I mentioned earlier about some people are able to get in many doors, but they're not closing the sale. So that maybe they have a problem with the conversation or the presentation. Maybe some people aren't getting in many doors, but they're closing a high percentage of sales. Well, we need to work with them on how to get into more doors. So what happens is it gives you an opportunity for training by following that. I see it oftentimes that sales managers will train their people on things that they may already be good at. And why focus, if they're already good at something like that, like catching a football, well, let's teach them how to kick the football. That's just an analogy, of course.
Perfect. And then reason 3 here, you touch on the impacts that this has on a new hire. So how will this benefit that individual and the company?
Well, that's probably the most significant impact besides the top line sales, is when you bring in somebody new. Quite frankly, most salespeople are a little afraid when they change sales jobs because they don't know what they're going to get. And when they come in and there's already a set process, already defined, and the steps are defined, and the scripts are defined. I just actually trained a salesperson here about 3 weeks ago, and one of the things he said to me, this is his very first day, he says, "Oh my gosh, I was so afraid to start this job." And I asked him why. He's actually fresh out of college too. He says, because I didn't know what what I needed to do. He says, you've outlined it in this playbook, in this in this manual. He goes, I see it as just a process of checking the box. So you're never going to learn anything unless you practice it, and you're never going to get good at it unless you do it over and over and over again. And in this case, by having this playbook that has your best practices defined, that is following the 7 steps of the sale, somebody who's new to your business can come in, read that, and just check the boxes and follow those steps while they're developing their skills in your industry.
Perfect. And then can you just give us a brief story that you've experienced as a whole of how this impacted a business following these 3 practices?
Well, I can tell you this: I've seen it fail more than actually succeed. And the reason why I say that is because when I come in and work for a client, when I take on a client, they already have this problem. So they see a lot of turnover, especially early. They see a long time, a long ramp-up period before somebody gets an understanding of what their sales processes are. I see most companies focusing on product knowledge and training as opposed to sales training. So the things that I see when once the system and process has been put in place is an acceleration of brand new hires.
Great. Perfect.
Cool.
And in addition, of course, higher revenues.
It's always good.
Right.
Okay.